Hi, I'm Marie and I'm a career counselor here at STU. In this video, I'll give you some advice on how to write a catchy application. During the video, you'll see what an application is, what you should do before you start writing, and how you should structure your application. But let's start by looking at which channels companies use when they hire new employees. In this graph, we can see that the channel at the top is a job ad. This is when you send an application on the basis of a posted job. This is the channel most companies use by far. On second and third place is Network and LinkedIn, but the unsolicited is down in fourth place. If you want to know more about building your network while applying unsolicited, please learn more on our website. You'll find the link at the end of this video. Here we can see how private and public companies and organizations value the CV and application. Private companies weigh the CV higher, whereas public organizations and institutions weigh the application higher. But we can also see that in some cases it will be the other way around. This means that you should weigh both equally in your job search. If you want to learn more about how to write a good CV, you can watch the video on our website. Now, what is an application? The application entails two elements: your motivation for the job and your take on how you can solve their tasks. The application looks forward to what you want to do. What are your visions for the job, and how can you create value for the company or organization? If you ask employers what they think applicants should be better at, the most important thing for them is that you show motivation for the specific job function, that you describe the value you can create, and the results you've achieved. So these three things are a good point of departure. And how do they handle your application? Employers say they most often read the CV first. However, there are several reasons why it's still important to be careful about the application. First of all, not everyone reads the CV first, and secondly, the application must match the CV. So if your CV has aroused interest, the application must live up to this. How long do you think employers spend reading your application in the first screening? Here it appears that most companies spend 1 to 2 minutes reading the application, shortly followed by 2 to 3 minutes. This means that you have to be sharp and your application must be clear and easy to read quickly. I'll get back to how you can do that later in the video. But to summarize, usually they read the CV first, but there are exceptions, and most companies spend 1 to 3 minutes reading your application in the first screening. Now let's look at what you need to do before you start writing. Here are 3 steps. You need to analyze the job ad, you need to do research, and you need to call the company. When you analyze the job ad, you can look for what tasks you should solve, who they're looking for, and what they tell about themselves. You can also see which competences are requirements and which are nice to have. There's a difference between experience with PowerPoint is an advantage and you must have a high level of expertise in Excel. Remember that the ad is a wish list. You don't have to meet all the requirements in the ad. When you've analyzed the ad, you need to do some research. There are many ways to do this. You can go on LinkedIn to see what kind of people are working there at the moment. You can look in newspapers and other media to find stories about the place. You can go to the company's webpage to see how they present themselves and what they tell about their company. And you can look at current and old job ads to get an idea of if they've hired a lot of people recently and who they previously looked for. When employers are asked how often they find that job seekers contact them, 53% say that less than 10% of job seekers contact them based on a vacancy. In turn, 90% say it's a good idea or a very good idea for job seekers to contact them. Thus, there is a discrepancy between the number of job seekers who contact employers in relation to how good an idea the employers think it is. Therefore, you should call the company or organization. It's always a good idea to call the contact person on the ad. You'll get more in-depth knowledge about what they want and value and what you then should prioritize. You might get to feel if the tone seems formal or informal, so you'll be able to target the recipient, and you'll get noticed and show interest for the job. Maybe you see that they want something they haven't written, or something might not be as important as it seems. If you ask employers what they think it takes to make a good call, What they value the most is that the candidate asks questions that they can't read the answers to in the ad, that the candidate's questions reflect that they know the company, and that the candidate shows actual motivation for the job. And what can you ask? Here are some examples. Do you weigh some of the competences you've written more than others? This is another way to find out which are nice to have and which are need to have. When you ask for 3 to 5 years of experience, what does that imply? Will you elaborate on which type of experience you're looking for? Field knowledge, work processes, knowledge, etc. As a student, you might not have a lot of working experience, but you still have a lot of knowledge and experience from your studies, maybe an internship or another student job, and it could be nice for you to know what they actually mean when they talk about experience. You can also ask, beside the task you've listed in the ad, are there other challenges or tasks that you should act on? What is the first task you should start on? This is a way to find out where the company is heading right now and what they're busy doing at the moment. And this is also a way to target your application more. You can also ask, what does it take to be a success in the job after 6 months? Questions you should avoid are all questions you can read the answers to in the ad, questions about salary, and questions that you're not comfortable asking or you don't really know how to ask. Now let's look at the structure of the application. Let's start by looking at how long the application should be. What do you think? Most say not more than 1 page. So try to stick to that. That's what most companies want. And think about readability, since they only spend a short time reading your application. Think of headlines, paragraphs, bullet points, font size, and not a lot of text, but then it also needs substance. So you need to try to find a balance. The application has 4 parts: the headline, the beginning and motivation, the professional match, and the personal match, and the ending. The first thing the employer reads is the headline. This is your main message, why you're the one for the job. Can you write it in 1 line? That increases the readability. Try using your headline actively. Graduate with writing experience seeks job as a communication employee, or recently graduated biologist wants to improve the waste disposal system. Let's have a look at what the good motivation contains. Here we see a graph that shows that the most important thing for employers is motivation for the job function. And what does that mean? You should see it as a love letter. The other person wants to hear why you think they're amazing. Why are you applying for this specific job in this specific company? Here you should use your research and your knowledge about the company. Companies want to know something about you and why you just must have this job. And we all like compliments. You don't have to write that you're interested in the job. They know that, otherwise you wouldn't be applying. But why you think it's interesting and what has woken your interest and motivation. For instance, the company values, the tasks, or the field. If you ask employers what they see as important in an application, then it is, as we've already heard, that you research the company, that you show motivation, and that you're good at presenting results. And how do you do that? This is where you have the opportunity to show the professional match. How can you do the job? Describe the professional match. How do you meet their demands? Highlight the experiences that you bring with you that you can use in this particular job. And give examples on your successes and how you can create results in this job. Use the language. You have to dive into your competences and think about what you can do and how you can use that in the specific job function. Here's an example. In the position as a volunteer coordinator, I'll draw on my time as a scout, both as a leader and a staff on multiple events and courses, and a volunteer at the International Girl Scout Centre in London, where I've worked with a number of different people. This has helped me become a skilled communicator and being able to keep a sense of perspective. This means that you'll get an employee with a focus on clear communication and structure. And finally, the personal match in the ending. Your personality is crucial. So briefly write about, for instance, your personal strengths, what you like as a colleague, what type of work environment you thrive in, how you work best, And you can do this in a paragraph of its own or put it in where it makes sense. As for the ending, there are many different variations of "I hope that I'll see you at an interview where I'd like to tell you more about how I can be of value to you." You need to find one that suits you. And finally, a checklist. Is it brief, the application? Is it 1 page? Have you called before you began writing? Is there a clear professional match between you and the company? Have you targeted your application to this exact job? Is your motivation clear? Have you used your headlines actively? Do you give examples? And is the application as much about them as it is about you? I hope you gained some inspiration for your next application. If you need more help, you can go to our website where you can read more about some of the things I've talked about. You can also book a career conversation, or you can go to one of our events. You find everything on mysdu.dk/career.